Here's more wrestling news for February 10th, 2022. And your headlines for this afternoon include: Raw Women's Champion Becky Lynch says NXT 2.0 superstar should be the sixth woman at Elimination Chamber. WWE have a solution for WrestleMania following release of controversial performer. Is Shane McMahon already back? WWE alum spotted during important negotiations overseas. What was the plan for Kurt Angle's return before plans were scrapped? Ric Flair once again hits out at Becky Lynch. The man fires back with brutal takedown. NXT UK superstar leaves WWE after 2-year run, opens up on difficult tenure. Who took a poop on the plane? Former WWE writer details shocking rules and investigation by Vince McMahon. New female superstar coming with latest trademarked name, and more. We are kicking off with Elimination Chamber, where 6 women will compete in the titular chamber match, with a Raw Women's title match at WrestleMania 38 on the line, but only 5 names have been announced so far. Bianca Belair, Nikki ASH, Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, and Doudrop will be joined by a mystery opponent, with names including Asuka, Bayley, and Alexa Bliss being speculated by fans. Any 3 of these women could be in the chamber match, but that's not who Raw Women's Champion Becky Lynch wants to see later this month, and possibly in the ring with her at WrestleMania. On social media, the man praised NXT 2.0's Wendy Choo, saying she should be in the chamber, which earned a response from Choo, warning everyone not to sleep on her. Before being Wendy Choo, the NXT 2.0 superstar was Mei Ying, the leader of Tian Sha, but despite reports of Vince McMahon being amazed by the gimmick, it was ultimately dropped. It's highly unlikely that Choo will be the 6th woman in Jeddah, but the fact that the ever-popular Raw Women's Champion already has her eyes on Choo, possibly as a WrestleMania opponent, is a great sign for the NXT 2.0 superstar. WrestleMania will have to go ahead without a match from Shane McMahon, who was released after his actions at the Royal Rumble. It was reported earlier this week that Shane's absence has left the company scrambling for a high-profile non-title match, the spot McMahon was meant to be in at WrestleMania, but it now appears that they've found a replacement. When Ringside News asked their sources within WWE, they were told that not only has a replacement been decided, but the company, quote, decided as soon as the decision was made to send Shane home. There's no word on who this replacement is, and possible high-profile names could be anyone from Bill Goldberg to The Undertaker, but the WWE does have someone in store to fill the Shane McMahon-sized hole left by his release. Shane McMahon may have been released by WWE and won't be working on screen on the road to WrestleMania, but he seemingly isn't entirely gone from all his roles. It appears that Shane still has some sort of ambassadorial role with the company, and this week met with Marco Masadi, the owner of the South Africa Sharks rugby team. On Twitter, Masadi said he was grateful to spend time with Shane as well as Florida Panthers owner Doug Sifu, and said that he's excited for a partnership between WWE and rugby. It's hard to say if this is part of an official role Shane has with WWE or is a favor to his father after his release last week. Even when he's not working as a wrestler, Shane has proven to be a valuable commodity to WWE, and he's continuing to prove his worth even after being cut and his WrestleMania plans ended. Kurt Angle was meant to be part of WWE's WrestleMania plans, as confirmed by the Olympian on his podcast, but those plans were scrapped late last week. According to reports, Angle's return was going to be a brief 3-week program, and we now know exactly what the Olympian was meant to be doing. Fightful Select has learned that Angle was originally meant to be featured in the ongoing RK Bro vs. Alpha Academy challenge, and had things worked out, he would have hosted a best-of-3 series of challenges between the 2 teams that played off his amateur wrestling days. Another idea pitched was for Angle to serve as a special guest referee at Elimination Chamber, presumably in a Raw Tag Team title match between the 2 teams. At this time, no Raw Tag title match has been announced for the event in Jeddah, but whether that match happens or not, the Hall of Famer won't be a factor in any plans. For years, Ric Flair has been at odds with Becky Lynch ever since the Raw Women's Champion has called herself The Man. Flair still believes that he owns the rights to that moniker given his classic catchphrase, "To be the man, you gotta beat the man," and has now once again hit out at the current-day superstar. On his Woo Nation Uncensored podcast, Flair called out Lynch for calling Ronda Rousey Ronnie and said that it's bad for WWE to allow someone to make a joke out of one of their most legitimate fighters and someone who brings mainstream appeal to the company. There is some valid claims to Flair's comments, but he didn't stop there, as he went on to call Lynch generic, inciting a response from the Raw Women's Champion. On Twitter, Lynch gave some advice to her 2.1 million followers, saying that they should work so hard and be so good that Ric Flair loses his mind every time you breathe. It's interesting that Rick is more on board with Ronda Rousey, who looks to win the SmackDown Women's title from his daughter Charlotte Flair, than he is with Lynch, and after this latest back and forth, we don't see the tension between the man and the man ending anytime soon. Over to NXT UK next, as Candy Floss signed a deal with the brand a couple of years ago, but the pink-haired superstar's time with WWE has come to an end. On Twitter, Candy Floss announced that she's no longer with NXT UK and that her contract actually expired in December of last year. She explained that her career with WWE faced many obstacles as she signed in January 2020 and was therefore forced to spend much of her tenure in WWE without any matches taking place. Floss added that during her WWE tenure, she dealt with the trauma of her mom's death just a few months before she signed, and praised WWE for being supportive of her through these difficult circumstances. Mental health should never be taken lightly, and we can understand where Candy Floss is coming from, and it remains to be seen what is next in store for the former WWE NXT UK star now that she's gone from the company. As a billionaire, it should come as no surprise that Vince McMahon has a private jet that only a select few people ever get to ride on. One name who did was actor/WWE writer Freddie Prinze Jr., who this week detailed one of the most bizarre journeys of his life on board McMahon's jet. Speaking on his Wrestling with Freddie podcast, Prinze recalled being confronted after a ride on the private jet by Michael Hayes, who asked him if he'd relieved himself on the journey. It turns out that McMahon had, and likely still has, a strict no-poop policy, and that someone broke that rule during a recent flight. Prinze continued, "Hayes goes, 'I'll have to find out who.' He's not laughing when he says it, he's pissed off. What kind of a job assignment is that? I've got to find out who took a my boss's plane. The freaking best agent in the company, and he's having to find out who took a poop on the plane." The Phantom Defecator was never found and remains a mystery to this day, over a decade after Prinze left WWE, and when Michael Hayes, a legend of tag team wrestling, and the Fabulous Freebirds joined WWE, we doubt he ever thought he'd have to play detective in the case of the private jet poop. And we're ending with some WWE trademark news, as according to the US Patent Office, the company now has the ownership of the name Kelly Kincaid. There's no word yet on who will be Kelly Kincaid, but we expect it'll be used for an NXT talent, and we'll have to keep an eye out for whoever gets this name and what plans WWE has for their career. Well guys, that's our news for today. Please share your comments below. Also hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to receive all notifications. And as always, thanks for watching.